I created a Venn diagram 10 years ago trying to explain Donald Trump as simply as possible. It has three circles, lying, stupidity, and mental illness. And then in the center is Donald Trump. And it still holds up. People have been saying, I mean, all kinds of people, and with diagnostic precision, what they think of Trump's mental disorders are. But this is, we always say, oh, it's beyond. Where's the bottom? But this week, it is the Mad King caricature seems truer than ever.
I'm Joanna Coles. This is the Daily Beast podcast. Oh my goodness. Trump is mad kinging it. RFK Jr. is lying to Congress. And apparently, according to rumors online, J.D. Vance is contemplating resigning. Who better to pull all this apart like Sunday's roast chicken than Kurt Andersen, the author and, of course, the one-time customer of RFK Jr., from whom he bought cocaine when they were both at Harvard together. Okay, no time to waste. Just before we get into it, can I remind you, please press the subscription button. We bring you independent conversations because we are independent media and we really appreciate your support. And we're trying to get to 700,000 subscribers in the next few weeks. So let's get into it now with the author and thinker and sort of brilliant observer, Kurt Andersen. Kurt Andersen, I've been so looking forward to talking to you because you've been monitoring Donald Trump for the last 40 years. Is this the week that he has finally gone completely bonkers?
Well, I have been a student of Donald Trump's for 40 years. And then I did write a book, a decade ago I was writing it, and it came out in the first year of his first administration, called Fantasyland, which was, in one sense, a history of American religion and American
conspiracy theories and crazies.
Conspiracy theories and iffy grip on reality and all those things that Trump then became the poster boy, master of Fantasyland suddenly for that. So this week, with the particular religious quality of the madness that we're seeing, is quite something. And again, for 10 years, I created a Venn diagram 10 years ago trying to explain Donald Trump as simply as possible. It has three circles, lying, stupidity, and mental illness. And then in the center is Donald Trump. And it still holds up. And last time I was with you, we talked about his stupidity and how that is an important of that tripartite Venn diagram. But, mental illness is there too. And I do think, people have been saying, all kinds of people, and with diagnostic precision, what they think of Trump's mental disorders are. But this is, we always say, oh, it's beyond. Where's the bottom? But this week, it is the Mad King caricature seems truer than ever.
Yeah, and I wondered actually, as we're speaking, I can hear the most heavenly sounding bird song in the background. I'm assuming you are somewhere in rural America.
I am in rural America, and that's not an effect. Those are actual birds. Yes, I am here in rural northwestern Connecticut.
Well, my point is that it sounds somewhat celestial. And of course, Trump this week posted himself as Jesus Christ. What were your thoughts when you saw that?
Well, my first thought was, no, it's not Jesus. He's a doctor. Now, of course, his lie, which was at odds with his vice president's lie, was that no, I thought it was a picture of a doctor, in the clouds with a glowing orb and a robe of antiquity, like doctors. So that was remarkable, and again, it's his ignorance and the ignorance of a guy whose the most important part of his political base is evangelical Protestant Christians. and yet he is more ignorant of Christianity, the Bible, all of it than like I am, and I'm pretty ignorant. It's remarkable, and so he didn't know. Oh, it's just it's me as God, it's me as Jesus, whatever, and posted that, and it started getting him in real trouble. I mean, with the general cracking up in various ways over Iran and war and all these other things that are core Epstein, that are core to the MAGA devotion, have been. This is a new one. Like, wait, okay, he didn't know he was a dummy about religion and, call it Corinthians, misnamed books of the Bible and all the rest, but they forgave him. This seems less forgivable. Together, of course, with thinking that he can slag Pope Leo as a new foil for his anger and vituperativeness.
Well, I was going to ask you, the Pope Leo suddenly seems to have, I don't want to say risen to Trump's bait, but he seems up for the fight with Trump, which is not actually something we've seen so directly from the Vatican before. And he's certainly gone after warmongers, and he's on his Africa trip this week. What do you make of him as a new opponent for the? I mean, let's face it, the Democrats are not doing a brilliant job. It seems like it's been left to the Pope to turn out to be an unexpected opposition.
Well, the Democrats, the Republicans, they're all politicians, and Americans hate all politicians categorically, even if they like individual ones, right? So, but the fact that he's an American and a guy from Chicago, is puts him in a whole different category, rather than just some foreign guy, some Italian guy or Argentinian.
Although they all look so similar, don't they? I think they look very similar, maybe because they wear the same outfit.
That's not accidental, Joanna.
Is that part of it, that they're all supposed to look the same? I didn't realize that.
Well, have you ever seen a picture of a conclave? Yeah, they all kind of look, they're all, old guys, some of them black old guys now, but, yeah. And the thing is, though, about Leo is he doesn't really rise to the bait. He still stays, keeps his smile. And, it's that like Southern lady, oh, bless his heart, bless you, bless your heart, when they're saying you're an idiot. And he said about this when he was, some reporter asked him as he was on his way to Africa about Trump's Truth Social madness, about Pope Leo being weak on crime, which is pretty hilarious.
As if he's running for office.
He simply said, it's ironic. The name of the site itself, meaning Truth Social, it's ironic. Say no more. I mean, so it's just like he doesn't come out full out and blasting in some Trumpian or response to Trump way. He says it in his pastoral, wise way, which is kind of beautiful, I think.
Yeah, and he seems to have hit a nerve with Catholics and non-Catholics alike. I can't tell you how many people I've heard this week saying, "Oh, I'm converting to the Catholic Church because of Pope Leo."
You and I both, yeah. And the thing is, Leo, unlike his predecessor Francis, has been embraced and liked by the conservative American Catholics for not being so woke. And speaking of woke, which I believe Trump called Francis, if not Leo yet. But wait, it's going to happen. You're hearing it here. Trump is going to, at some point, call Jesus too woke. He just is. Because he was, by their standards, too DEI, too woke, all those things. But anyway, it's coming. But I think the Pope has handled it well. I mean, he hasn't. It's still, he doesn't mention Trump, nor did he mention Hegseth when he was saying this guy, or the warmongering shouldn't be a thing.
Well, and Hegseth also quoting from a prayer that was actually largely or partially fictional from pulp fiction.
There was one line from this short verse of Ezekiel 25:17, I think, in the Tarantino's and his co-writer's script. And Hegseth Hegseth quoted the whole thing. He had gotten it from one of the flyers, one of the aviators who were in the search and rescue mission for the downed American pilots in Iran. Okay, but he didn't say that. He just said it was from Ezekiel, and it was in his monthly Pentagon Christian prayer service. So the people who say, as they have to me online, "Oh, you're this is not fair." He didn't think he was quoting Ezekiel. He said it as though it was a prayer. They showed his audience acting as though they're being serious and solemn and prayerful. Yes, he did. I mean, and it's hilarious that this guy who is the most cartoonish G.I. Joe tough guy and always quoting biblical lines, of which there are plenty if you take them out of context in the Old Testament, of violence against people, he was using that in this superhero military character way that he is, Pete Hegseth. He's a joke. He's a different version of the cast of cartoon characters that Trump has built around him. But there you go. It was amazing. And then the follow up to me was he was at a press conference in the Pentagon later after that. He was asked about the from days before about the Trump Jesus AI image, and the fact that the Iranian government had shared another AI video of Jesus flying into that picture and basically whacking Donald Trump and casting him into hell. And the reporter asked him about that, and Pete Hegseth's answer was, "That's detached from reality."
Right. I mean, yeah. It's just so Hegseth is certainly one of Trump's top goons. The other, and I know he's a great favorite of yours because you once famously now bought cocaine off him when you were both at Harvard together, is of course RFK Jr., who is doing the rounds of select committees this week. And well, it was really something else, and we have some clips that we want to play for you to get you to comment on. But he seems to be. I mean, it's possible that Trump has realized now that he could be a bit of a liability for Trump and for certainly going into the midterms. Trump has come in over the top of him and actually hired a real doctor to run the CDC, Erica Schwartz, who went to a liberal college. She got her degree from Brown University. She actually knows what she's talking about. She was Deputy Surgeon General. So,
and shockingly, she's a black woman.
Shockingly, she's a black woman. So it feels as if Trump is doing his best to stiff-arm RFK Jr. The talk of vaccines is less, but the talk of vaccines nevertheless came up at the first hearing he was at on Thursday morning, where when asked... Well, when it was pointed out that measles had actually been eradicated from the US in 2000, he was then pointed to the fact that according to the numbers, which are now going up because he's sown such doubt around the measles vaccine and in particular MMR vaccine, saying it's causing autism, this year we're on track to have 6,000 cases of measles in a country that had eradicated it. And his excuse was, well, if you look at other countries, look at Mexico, we're doing better than Mexico, which is, of course, not what you should be comparing it to. You should be comparing it to the fact that 2 years ago in the US, we didn't have any cases of measles. So what do you make of him a year into his job as health secretary?
Well, Trump let him off the leash and let him do what he wanted, as he said he would when he was endorsed by Bobby during the 24 election, and then when he got in, because he didn't care about any of this. However, I have been surprised from the get-go, almost most of all the Trump policies, about his letting Robert F. Kennedy Jr. do what he wants with health and human services. It's not just vaccines. It's this gigantic, the public health enterprise of CDC and FDA and all the rest of the United States, so that he let him do that, because that is not this group is part of the coalition that Bobby Kennedy helped get him in 2024, as well as, let's not underestimate the thrill to Donald Trump of being a Kennedy. He's a Kennedy. He's a Kennedy. That's why he chose him. But he does and did have this, anti-vaccine, anti-science part of the coalition that was important. He doesn't need that now, and I believe it's because most people that Donald Trump knows and talks to at Mar-a-Lago or wherever think this is nuts, and things like the undermining of scientific research from the National Institute of Health, and all of it is crazy. And stop this. So I think he's finally gotten around to saying, yeah, I have gotten what I'm going to get out of Bobby Kennedy probably. So I don't need these freaks anymore. And we'll put in real people running the health services. You don't want to give him credit, but it's not really credit exactly. It's what I've said from the beginning of his time in office, Trump's, which is that it's Munchausen by proxy syndrome, where it's like a nurse who creates sickness and death and then cures it to prove that. Well, that's what he does. He creates these problems and then look, there's a peace settlement in Lebanon. Oh, look, we've got new head of the CDC who believes in vaccines. All that stuff. He creates these problems, and then if people are unhappy or terrorists to some degree, he solves them, and that's what he's kind of done, I think, although quietly, because why make a ruckus if he doesn't have to, with Bobby Kennedy and the Health and Human Services thing, and all these people, including Bobby Kennedy, I think, are looking for ways out. And he's got a way out because he's got independent celebrity, even though this is, as with Kristi Noem and Pete Hegseth and the rest of them, this is the only time and the only presidential administration in which he could get a cabinet position, period, end of story. But he can carry on, and it's why he started a podcast, for instance, and why he's looking to, 2029 or sooner to figure out the next phase of his career.
Okay, so we have a clip from the trailer for his podcast. Let's just hear it.
For decades now, Americans have been told that we should trust the system, but our children are sicker, chronic diseases exploding, and the answers that we've been given aren't working. Many of us have come to the conclusion that government actually lies to us. I'm Robert F. Kennedy Jr., your HHS secretary. This podcast is about telling the truth, especially when it's uncomfortable.
Well, first of all, he is the government. He is the government that's telling us untruths. Did that make you feel uncomfortable?
Well, the thing about the government, the government doesn't tell the truth all the time. I mean, it's been a part of the Republican pitch since 1980 and Ronald Reagan, right? It's like he's running against the government. He became president. He's still kind of running against the government. And the worst and the scariest thing that has ever happened is I'm here from the government and I'm here to help you. This anti-government posture of Republicans when they're controlling the government is the great one of the great catch-22s of Republican governance. And here we go. Exactly. I mean, a president who is told whatever it now is, if they're still keeping count, 64,000 lies, and in his time in office, and Bobby Kennedy, whose whole second career after being a decent environmental lawyer in the 20th century, and my cocaine dealer, he hitched his wagon to this brand new thing, which is anti-vaccine misinformation and falsehoods, thanks to the internet, which came along just as he decided to make this switch to this whole different political coalition that he has to know must be. I mean, I would think, unless he's, depending on how mentally disordered he is, that he knows his family all hate him. and his cousins and nephews and everything. And, his father and his uncle and both his uncles would surely feel like this is the worst of our variously bad Kennedy offspring.
Yeah, and there's a new book out by him. I interviewed the author, Isabel Vincent, earlier this week, actually, which goes into his absolute self-loathing and guilt about him not being able to live up to the Kennedy family name. And she gets hold of, she's given by a friend of his late wife, Mary Kennedy, several of Bobby Jr.'s diaries. And so she's able to weave in his self-reflections throughout the book and juxtapose them with what's going on contemporaneously, which gives an insight into the fact that he's an absolutely tortured, completely tragic figure. I highly recommend it because I know that, well, as you say, he was your cocaine dealer, although you only bought coke off him once at Harvard. And I won't make you tell that story again.
And he was it. So I'm proud of that. I only bought it once and it was a celebrity.
And it was, and in fact, you rifled through his context book when he went to get his stash for you, and you found the Pope's number. I wonder if it's still working. I wonder if it's a direct line to the Vatican, or if it was just.
If it's been updated for the subsequent ones. I don't know. That's a good question. And by the way, I just want to remind you that was a Daily Beast exclusive you got about my rifling through
Well, it was a fantastic story. It was my favorite story that you've ever told me, I think, of you buying coke from him when you were both students. Anyway, I won't make you retell it. But one of the things that was so striking about your analysis of him, again, you having observed him over the years and sort of your circles having overlapped, is that he's reckless, he's dangerous, that he's a liar. And we saw him lying full on at the hearing yesterday. And we're going to play you a bit of that. Congresswoman Terry Sewell says to him, why did you suggest that black children should be taken and reparented? And he says, goodness, I don't even know what that means. That doesn't make sense. I never said that. She says, yes, you did. He says, well, find me the tape. So we're just gonna play you the clips to show you that.
In a 2024 podcast interview, you suggested that black children on ADHD medication should be reparented. You said every black kid is now just standardly put on Adderall, SSRI, benzos, which are known to induce violence, and that those children are going to have to go somewhere to get reparented. There is a lot to unpack in that comment. I know that you've already answered several of the questions I was going to ask, and so I'm just going to rephrase them. Mr. Secretary, you've already admitted that you are not board-certified physician, and you've already admitted that you did not go to medical school. Have you ever reparented, or parented, I should say, a black child?
I don't even know what that phrase means, and I doubt that
a yes
I
or
said
no
it.
answer.
I doubt that I said
say
that
it.
phrase.
You
No,
absolutely
I'm not
said
going to answer something that I didn't say.
You absolutely said it.
Oh, I'd like to hear the recording.
Well, we have the recording for those who caught that exchange yesterday. And for those who didn't, we have the recording. Here it is.
Psychiatric drugs, which every black kid is now just standard put on Adderall, SSRIs, benzos, which are known to induce violence. And those kids are going to have a chance to go somewhere and get reparented, to live in a community where there'll be no cell phones, no screens. You'll actually have to talk to people.
Thoughts?
Well, and that was a year after the other famous thing that he denied saying, as he has denied saying again and again and again in various ways that I've never said vaccines are terrible. I've never said this esteemed pediatrician should be put in prison. All these things that are there. I mean, in this, he is like Donald Trump, just denying things for which there are a million receipts. But yes, no doubt well, there you go. There he is saying that and denying. And he could probably pass a lie detector test. He probably forgets it because he says a million things that somebody in his position always has. And, I don't know how strong his mental capacity is at this point. But I was saying a year before that, I think in 2023, he was busted for having said at a dinner of some kind of fundraiser, I believe, that it was after COVID, but not long after 2023, saying that COVID had been engineered to spare Asians and Ashkenazi Jews. So his habit of saying this horrible lies, to stoke racial hatred, is, a part of his MO.
Part of his MO. Well, I wonder how long he'll last. So, will you be listening to his podcast, Kurt?
I will listen. Probably once or twice. I sometimes hate watch so deeply or hate listen. I guess I don't really hate listen yet to a podcast, but I want to have a sense of what it is. But I think as with many pieces of media these days, I will rely on others who spend their time finding the juicy bits and reading and listening to the clips. But there and again, it's interesting, isn't it, that he'll be out there with the podcast, as the vice president's wife has one, and I guess it's a thing you do now if you're in this administration, which is a subset of show business.
I'm pretty confident that nobody in the administration has actually listened to Usha Vance's podcast, because it's actually rather subversive. It's all sorts of children's tales where the child is basically fighting the corporate man, including, she starts with Peter Rabbit, and her conversation is all about how important public libraries are, and do you go to the library, and aren't libraries wonderful?
Really?
So
She sounds like a left-wing lunatic to me.
Radical left-wing lunatic.
Yeah.
So you mentioned earlier that the public really doesn't like politicians, which is part of the reason that initially, certainly, they liked Donald Trump. 2 congressmen got bounced this week, Eric Swalwell and Tony Gonzalez, one Democrat, one Republican. I have to say, I had tea with Eric Swalwell about a month ago, and I wouldn't have anticipated this. He seemed surprisingly straightforward and normal. I mean, it just goes to show that you can't tell anything from a sort of an hour's meeting with someone when they're on best behavior. But what did you think of this development?
Well, good that, they bounced themselves, so that's good that it wasn't required to go through a whole censure process and pressure. No, I think the fact that shame, or whatever the combination of whatever the correct word in this day and age is for what the pressure that was being felt by Swalwell, and I guess perhaps Gonzalez as well, that there are still, lines and standards. And even if, there are all kinds of more egregious lines being crossed by other members of Congress every day about, condoning horrible Trump policies or being corrupt, themselves in campaign financing and everything else. But I think it's good. I personally had never been a big Swalwell fan, but then I never spent a lovely hour with him as you had. So no, but seriously, I was not a fan, and I felt as he was an uninteresting, opportunist, and I was not happy, for instance, in the stuff he, like Kirsten Gillibrand, said right away, unfairly and stupidly, about Mamdani when he was running for mayor. And he's I obviously that seat will be easily filled by another Democrat. And if we're getting into the weeds of the political ramifications, the fact that he, who was probably going to be the Democratic candidate of the 2 candidates for governor in California, he is no longer going to be that. So that's getting it clear, just for forget him, forget whatever it means about the moral compasses that still exist in the House of Representatives and in the political media generally. Good, he's gone. Is my feeling about him, and Gonzalez as well. Good, and when they can still do that, as they did with Santos, a couple of years ago, I mean, it's a tiny morsel of old-fashioned normalcy.
Yeah, although Eric Swalwell is denying it, and Tony Gonzalez can't deny it because the woman that he pressurized into having a relationship then set herself on fire and died by suicide. So that would be hard to deny, though. One can't help feeling he probably would have denied it if he could.
Yeah, I'll we can make a bet right here that in a year or months or whatever time, once you get as many women claiming, accusing a person of such a thing, and it's no longer 2017 where you could say, well, it's going too far. Everybody's, I don't know. My inclination is certainly to accept the preponderance of accusations. But yes, we'll see. He's been convicted of nothing. But now, since he is foregone the possibility of having to defend himself in a congressional investigation, and will almost certainly, I would think, not be charged with any crimes for these assaults or whatever they were. He may face civil suits, but we'll see. So he can, he's in a position where he can probably get away with denying it forever. I mean, and which is the beauty part of resigning and removing yourself from actual due processes of any kind.
Yeah, although it was interesting to read about another terrible case of a Democrat in Virginia, the former lieutenant governor shooting his wife and then shooting himself because he'd not been able to recover from accusations of women when he'd run to be governor of Virginia that he had sexually assaulted them. And he'd basically run out of steam. He wasn't earning anything. He'd set up his own shingle because he was a lawyer. And it's interesting to think, I mean, what happens to Eric Swalwell at this point? He seemed utterly plausible as a congressman, although apparently there were all sorts of rumors and people said, oh, we knew, we'd heard about these things. But I wonder how you, unless you embrace religion or something, I'm not sure how you bounce back from something like that. Or Tony Gonzalez himself, and they both apparently are still remaining married.
Well, and the question, unlike the former lieutenant governor in Virginia who was being divorced by his wife, and I think that's, at least as I read the reporting, what prompted the murder and suicide. But I mean, I guess it's interesting. Ordinarily, in the past, when Congress people left Congress, even under dirty conditions, they, of course, became lobbyists. So, I mean, that would be the obvious thing for Swalwell. But this thing, that is to say, accusations of sexual assault and the cancellation that occurs, seems to, as far as it looks to me, as though that hurts the lobbying future as a career option. So yeah, it's a good question what a guy like that does. I mean, because whereas it's possible that such a person, if they haven't been pedophiles as well, could, for instance, get a partisan left, in his case, liberal, if not left, media position. But yeah, I don't think that's in the cards at all for him. So I don't know. But yeah, well, and maybe I'm just a jerk. I don't care either. But whatever.
Well, I don't care either. But again, how is it possible that Donald Trump, who's got, I think, 28 accusations of various levels of sexual abuse against him, how is it possible that he's able to have the top job still?
Yeah, that is the question. And it relates to the previous conversation about basically the religious nature of Donald Trump, that he's an anointed one by God, which many, many millions of people in the United States believe. that in some way it's a providential move by the Lord. And again, does he kind of sort of maybe believe that himself these days? You never know, and that's the great conundrum of Donald Trump. Is it just lies, or does he also believe it? And it's the conundrum of con men forever, con people forever. But it relates to that because Donald Trump has always, because he was so famous in his way and pushed it and was so unlike any other politician, he dispensed with having the normal rules of, oh, that's wrong, he's done, apply to him, right? From the start, like when he called McCain a coward and just everything that, he's done now, that starting 11 years ago he was doing. And he escaped that for a decade. I think the demigod quality among those who truly regard him as in some ethereal celebrity world where normal rules don't apply, which was a remarkable thing to have pulled off for him. But I think the shield is losing its power and juice, and I really do think I'm hopeful indeed that in the next day by day, and certainly months from now, and God knows 942 days or whatever remain in this term, he's losing that. I mean, inevitably there will be the people, figuratively and literally in the bunker with him. Maybe not literally, because I don't think anybody is, except maybe Stephen Miller, is enough of a believer to stay in the bunker with him. But I think his true belief. I think the true believers. My sense is, the true believers are peeling off.
There are all sorts of rumors online, so they must be true. And you did write a book about conspiracy theories that J.D. Vance is going to resign, that the war has pushed him too far, and that he actually might resign. If you were J.D. Vance, which is a big hypothetical, I understand,
Yeah.
would you resign, or would you try and get the rest of the cabinet behind you and enact Section 4 of the 25th Amendment?
That's a very, very interesting question. A very interesting question. I hadn't heard the rumors of his resignation. It's probably the only shot he has at becoming the nominee, But it's a long shot, and none of these people seem like they take the long shots or they take the risk. I mean, to me, the explanation of the craven cowardice of elected Republicans in Washington is they are grotesquely risk averse. Like, oh, I won't stand up and say he's wrong about this or that because oh no, I want my job. However, in his case, I mean, he could go on. Unlike, say, Eric Swalwell, he could have jobs in business and speaking and being on Fox, whatever. He could have a job, but if he thinks he can be, I don't think a Republican can be nominated who isn't Donald Trump, who isn't basically. I know I'm serious about keeping out of dumb wars. I mean, the one of these important lies that he told about like, no, I'm the guy to vote for if you don't want us to get into wars. The people I knew who had become Trumpers, the few people I knew, it was all about that. It was about free speech and no wars, right? Well, but I think if J.D. Vance anything can happen, and of course anybody who's ever been near the Capitol building thinks maybe I could be president. But I think J.D. Vance is out of luck. He's a terrible, unlikable person as a politician, so that probably I think is a problem for him from the get-go. So it would be interesting if he resigned, because it would make, oh wait, this guy actually believes in something, and
Right.
To be maybe fair-ish, he probably kind of does believe in that, as Tucker probably. I mean, these awful people who believe all kinds of awful things aren't without actual beliefs, unlike Donald Trump, who has no actual beliefs.
Right. And J.D. Vance is clearly ambitious. He's 41. Were he to resign on a point of principle, it would give him a much better platform from which to run in 2028.
Oh.
Though, as you say, he's not likable as a retail politician.
No.
So who knows whether or not he would win. But in the time, he could go off. He could certainly make some money. And it would be an interesting position for him to take, given that he did call Trump the new Hitler or America's Hitler.
Exactly.
And he said he's against war.
I was right the first time. No, he didn't even need to say that. I mean, he can say, and as you make an interesting point too, that in terms of next stage, let's say it's not president, and certainly not president in 2028, to be a guy who, on a matter of principle, it wasn't because I hated Trump or whatever. It was because this is just wrong, and I understood, and we should not be fighting these wars. Let's say that doesn't get him the nomination in 2028. It's a good way to start, like having a political career that makes you look like you have some backbone, right? So,
right.
It could be a good move, because I don't see. Unless the other thing he's thinking about, and the 25th Amendment, I just don't see it happening. I mean, again, he can get crazier and crazier, and then it could be unavoidable when he's, found prancing naked in the Lafayette Park or something, I guess.
Which is what happened to Boris Yeltsin. Do you remember when Yeltsin came for a visit and was found drunk out of his skull, wandering in his underpants down Pennsylvania Avenue?
Yeah, but I don't think Donald Trump has the vodka issue that Yeltsin had. Or supposedly he does not drink.
Although he describes himself as having an alcoholic's personality, which is why he doesn't drink.
I know. No, which I think, and I've talked to recovering alcoholics about this very thing, which says there is a certain kind of unhappy sober person who where it comes out in all these pathological ways, and he might well be one of those.
Well, Kurt, it's excellent to talk to you. A grounding for Sunday, and a semi-celestial experience with the Connecticut birds in the background. Many thanks for joining us, and hope to see you again soon.
Bless you, my child.
I'll take it. Thank you very much.
Bye.
It would be a miracle if we had a politician who resigned on a point of principle, wouldn't it? And J.D. Vance is certainly young enough to do it. He's 41. His wife, Usha Vance, Cambridge and Yale-educated lawyer, is putting out a subversive podcast for children on reading and reinforcing how important public libraries are as they are being cut by many Republicans across the country. So who knows what's going to happen next? But put a comment. Tell us what you think. We've just heard what Kurt thinks. Tell us what you think. Put it in the comments. I read and reply to as many of them as I can, and we love hearing from you. So if you have been, thank you for joining us. Don't forget to press the subscribe button. You can become a friend of the Beast for just $5 a month. You get all sorts of extra content, and then you get Michael Wolff moaning about how he can't access the content. I will show him, and many of you wrote in to say you just press the bell button, Michael. It's not that complicated. He, of course, finds all tech things complicated. You should hear the conversations he has with our production team. Happy Sunday. So the good news is we have so many Beast tier members now. There are too many names to read out, and we really appreciate your support. Thanks to our production team, Devon Rogerino, Ryan Murray, Rachel Passer, Heather Passaro, Neil Rosenhaus.